Hello, everyone. Welcome to our event on how to build your resume on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for coming together today to learn from our great executive coach, Sana, but also to get a chance to learn from each other. I just got back from our networking session. It was a great session to get to know everybody, to get to know Sana, and also share with her what we would like to get out of this workshop. If you miss a networking, no problem. On the chat, you can always, as we go through the presentation, you can share with Sana why you're here, what you would like to learn, any questions. But before we get to the workshop, which I know we're all very excited about, I wanted to give you an overview of what Women of MENA is, what we do, and if you would like to engage with us for any other events. So Women of Middle East and North Africa in Tech is a nonprofit organization. We're 5 years old, headquartered in SF, but we have teams across 17 cities now in Canada, Europe, and the US. Our LA team has organized this event. Every quarter, we do at least one event for our community, that being a workshop or bringing panelists to talk about a topic that our community has shared with us as being important or time sensitive, or for example, this resume topic is something that a lot of our community has been sharing with us for a while, because we are all going through transitions, changing jobs, wanting to build our skills and use this opportunity to invest in ourselves. So we're very happy that Sana, who used to be a community member and was in our events, expressed interest to share a lot of her knowledge with us. So thank you, Sana, and we'll welcome her soon on the stage. I also want to let you all know about another event that is coming up on March 5th. March is International Women's History Month. So on March 5th, we are bringing different companies together. We're inviting all of our women in STEM to come and celebrate Women's Day. Our event is Friday, March 5th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's free for all women in STEM, so that will be all of you. And we encourage everybody to come together and celebrate. It's going to be a fun format when you do register for it. And the information is all on our LinkedIn, our Facebook group, and our Instagram. When you do register, we'll share with you sort of the format, but you will get an opportunity to meet with companies who are really investing in diversity and inclusion, especially women's rights in the workplace. But you also can have an opportunity to invite your company to be part of the celebration. So if your company, or you know a friend who is working for a tech company or a law firm or a big company that has a diversity and inclusion program, I would love to speak with you and see if you would like to support us for this event and bring more communities and bring more companies to talk about how important it is for all of us to invest in women in the workplace. So with that, I don't want to make you all wait too long for Sana. Sana is an executive coach. She has years of experience, has worked for many big firms, and she's here today to give you all an overview on some of the tips that can make your resume and LinkedIn stand out, but also more specifically ask questions and get your questions and answer them. So as you will see, Sana has made the format sort of flow really well. There's going to be a lot of engagement. So I hope you all have the energy, get yourself a drink, a tea, coffee, whatever you want, because this is going to be a really good engaging workshop. And we want to make sure that you really get what you're here for today, whatever that is. If it's also connecting with our community, we have another opportunity for you after the main stage. There's going to be another networking where you can ask more specific questions and even dig deeper into any questions that you have for Sana. After the event, again, to your left, you're going to click on sessions and you're going to go into the networking room with Sana. And I'm always here, and I'm here with my colleague or my team member, Yasmin from the LA team. We're both here and we want to support you. So if you have any questions, you can always chat us as the event is going on. So I'm going to go ahead and welcome Sana to the stage. It's going to take a little bit. There she is. Yes.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be here. Let me also share my screen.
Great.
And you can see.
All right, Sana, thank you. The floor is all yours. I'm going to leave now.
Thank you, Shazajan. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Shazajan, Yasmin Jan. I'm Sana Keshtkaran. I'm a career and executive coach. I was born and raised in Iran. I moved to Australia about 10 years ago and moved to the States about 5 years ago. My academic background is in psychology and business analytics, and my professional background is in human resources, learning and development, and also coaching. I've worked with multiple companies, both in Australia and also in the Bay Area. And as a coach, I love my job. I love working with people who are so ambitious, very aspirational. They remind me, honestly, every day to choose courage over comfort. I work with individuals who are looking for their very first job out of college, or they're just going through a career switch, changing their whole professional journey that they have, and also with leaders and entrepreneurs who want to establish their own ventures, or they already have the business but they want to level up and take their business to the next level. And so excited to be here to discuss careers, and particularly resume and LinkedIn. And I'm just going to get started. We're going to go over some search strategies and search mindset that I consider to be really important. And then we're going to cover tips for LinkedIn and resume. Every few slides, I'm going to pause to make sure I answer any questions that you might have relevant to those slides. But at the end of the session, we are going to have another Q&A. So feel free to ask your questions there too, especially if it's something general that I don't necessarily cover in the sessions. Feel free to ask. It's very important that you start with a good studying of your job description, the job descriptions for the jobs that you're really interested in. And that's important. We're going to dig deeper into how it's going to be applied when we get to the resume and the cover in the resume and LinkedIn session. But you want to be really prepared and read all the job descriptions to know what type of language the employer used to explain like what exactly you need to have in terms of skills, qualifications, are they must-haves, are there bonus points, and really important to learn their language. So for example, some companies might call a role customer success, whereas another company might call the same role customer service or account management or sales. So it's really important to know what they're using, and so that you can use the same exact keywords in your resume. And I always tell my clients to literally create a list of all those keywords that you see in these job descriptions, and so that you can cross-check later on with your particular resume, but then also with your LinkedIn, and to make sure that you have this, because your resume is going to go through ATS, or applicant tracking system, which is an automatic way of assessing your resume to see whether you're a good fit or not. And so by doing this, you increase the chances of getting in, because you have a lot of the keywords that they have in the job descriptions you also have in your resume. And another reason that is really important, I was having a conversation with Yasmin in a networking session. You want to really work on your confidence, and your confidence doesn't come just from, telling yourself good things and all being positive. It also is a very strategic thing. So you want to learn how to use those words in the job description as part of your interview question and answers. So definitely study the job descriptions. Don't just scan them. It's really important and a big foundational part of your job search. And the next one, which is very familiar to you all, you've heard it all the time, networking. And some statistics here that a lot of people don't like initially to hear, as 60% of jobs are found through networking, and about 70% of job listings are never made public. A lot of people say this is unfair, this is sad. And first of all, I say life is never fair. You just have to learn how to play the game. But also, honestly, if you learn how to play this game, you realize there's so much opportunity, especially with LinkedIn, to leverage the whole situation to make sure that you get the job, regardless of whether it's made public or not, because then you're only relying on your network. And I know that with the pandemic world, it's we don't have the opportunity to go to networking sessions per se. I mean, obviously, we're so lucky to have certain sessions like this one that where we do actually get to network. But even pre-pandemic, I always believed that LinkedIn is the best way to network, because when you go to a networking session, like a physical networking session, you really don't know if that person that all the people who are there, you don't really know who is going to be potentially like the best person for you to get connected to. Everyone is going to have some value to you, but on LinkedIn, you get to strategize this. You get to see, okay, this is the person that I want to connect with. Let me see if I have a mutual connection with that person. Let me message that person and ask them for a referral or to make an introduction. So no matter what, I always say that you have to build a strategy around your networking initiative for yourself, for your job search process. And the best way to do it is to have a spreadsheet and make a list of all the people that you want to reach out to, people that you know, people that seem very interesting to you and you want to get connected to. And I want you all to think about a few things that I call them job search mindset that I consider to be really important. And this is something that I particularly want to emphasize for an audience that is mostly women. Um, any deal that you get into in life, you want it to be a win-win deal. You don't sign a contract just because you want to give a benefit to someone else. That's part of it, but you also want to get something out of it too. But a lot of the times, what happens when I talk to my clients, particularly women, they are worried about the main concern is to get the job, to be able to make the employer confident that yes, I'm a good match for this job. They don't think too much about, okay, is this job and is this company going to provide a good opportunity for growth for me? Am I going to be learning a lot or not? And so they're constantly focusing on whether they meet 100% of the job description or not. Whereas men, usually they look at the job description and say, okay, I meet like 60 or 70% of the job description, and they're going to click apply. So we definitely want to change that. We want to look at it as a win-win situation where you also feel like, okay, I have a lot of qualifications, a lot of things that I can bring to the table, but I want to actually look for a job that that fills some gaps that I have, so that those 40%, 30% in the job description that you don't necessarily meet, you want to apply for that job so that they can help you grow as well. And also remember that there are certain qualifications that are negotiable. And that doesn't necessarily that's not always listed on the job description. You kind of get the idea based on how the number of jobs that you apply. You tend to see like what's norm in the market, what's known for the particular role that you're going for. But then also you get a better idea after your first interview if you go to that round with the employer. So what I'm trying to say here is that if you, for example, notice that they want experience with a particular software, you might have used it a little bit. You might not be advanced. Don't be scared that, okay, just because I'm not at the advanced level, I shouldn't apply or should just go look at some other job. Think to yourself, is this something that I can potentially learn quickly between now and like in 1 month? I've had clients where she's actually working at Facebook right now, and just 5 days before one of her last interviews, she said, I didn't know how to use this particular program, but as soon as I know that they gave me the job interview, like day in and day night, I was just constantly just learning this and practicing this, and by the time we got to the interview, she passed it and she was good. And no one cares if you learned this just the night before or like 2 years ago. Some skills you can really learn even on the job, because another good example is certain software, let's say like a project manager software like Asana. It's fairly easy to get used to learn how to navigate it. But some companies, they might think, we really want you to have experience with it. And that's fine. You can say, yeah, I've worked with it, but you might not necessarily have experience using it a certain way that they want. And that's okay, because no matter what, even if you have years of experience working with Asana, each company uses it differently. So they are going to train you on that regardless. So think of all these things. And so don't be scared if you're not like at the 100% at each of the qualifications listed. And ultimately, a really good mindset thing to have when it comes to your job strategy is that your job in the whole job interview process is to make the employer confident in their decision making. The recruiter who sees your resume, she's not going to understand all the keywords and every technical thing, and we're going to get into that and how you can solve that problem. But my point is, if she can be really confident in your skills based on the resume, she's going to pass it on to the hiring manager. So you already won that person. And then when it comes to the interview with the hiring manager, you really want to be confident in your skills. And even if you're not 100%, you want to present yourself in a way as if, yeah, you've got this. You have a lot of experience. You've practiced it, maybe not at the level that they want, but you trust in yourself that you're gonna bridge that gap on the job as well. And most people are fine with that. Any reasonable manager or employer, they want to look out for your professional development too. So that's always a good thing. I want to pause here and see if there are any questions you might want to ask about what I covered just now. And feel free to unmute yourself so I can hear you. Okay, I assume there are no questions. So I'll go to the next slide. Okay, so we want to stand out on LinkedIn. I'm going to go over some logistical things. You want to make sure that you're searchable. And what I mean by that is that when you go on the search bar on LinkedIn, if you click on, if you put in your first name and last name, you want to make sure that it comes up, like even if you're not logged in. And a lot of the times that doesn't really happen for people, because then that's because the URL doesn't show their first name and last name. So what you want to do, you go to your profile, and on the top right corner, you click on edit LinkedIn, or you click edit URL, and you will be able to put in your first name and last name, so you'll be searchable that way. And you definitely want to make it fun. Your LinkedIn is not a copy paste of your resume. You want to make sure that you show your character, you show your personality on your bio. Your bio is a really great place to do that. You can share the way that you think by the type of comments that you put on people's posts, the type of posts that you share. You're constantly creating your brand. And there was a question on that when we were networking too. And so this is a big part of your branding, because on your resume, you can't really do that much. But when it comes to your LinkedIn, you have your profile picture. These days, they have like this audio thing that you can put. And some people choose to put their, just to say their first name and last name. Some people make it a little bit longer to say what their role is. So you constantly are making it more personal. And we talk about like recommendations and endorsement, which also are a big part of how you make it fun, but also making a great brand for yourself. Next one that is also really important, especially if you're in the job search and your profile is built so that recruiters can look you up. It's important that you put your current role in the headline. So this applies also even to people who are like recent graduates, people who are just about to finish their programs. And let's say you're doing a software engineer program and you're finishing in 4 months. You've never had a role as a software engineer, but you are technically one. You have all the skills and you're looking for that role. If you put aspiring software engineer or recent graduate at such and such school, people are not going to find you because the recruiter is literally going to put software engineer and look for people with that title in their headline. So you're going to miss out on those opportunities. And avoid long descriptions. This particularly applies to the job description under your roles that you've had, the job experiences. So your resume is a place where you want to have a longer description, like with more details of like everything that you do. Your LinkedIn, you want to make it very interesting and attractive, but you just want to give recruiters just enough about you to draw the attraction. And so they will want to see your resume. They will want to know more about you. And this is actually part of this whole like marketing branding thing too, that you want to know like where people are getting interested in your work and invite them to want to learn more about you. And you want to be really picky about your connections and your endorsements. So if you're a person who hasn't really built your LinkedIn to a really good extent, like you're still adding people, you're in the early stages, it's really important that you're mindful of the type of people that you connect with. I'm not saying that you shouldn't connect with family and friends and all that, like people who are not necessarily in the same field as you, but try to have more of your connections be in the same exact field that you are in. So for example, I'm a coach, and so I try to mostly connect with people who are in the leadership space, in the career coaching space, in psychology, learning and development and all that. But I do have my friends and family too who work at like different companies, and so at the time that I was looking for jobs, I would connect with them, so they would connect me with someone else who's doing the same job as me in their company. So it's good to keep that balance. But another reason that it's really important is that you want to design your feed so that when you go on LinkedIn, you have really interesting posts to potentially reshare or make comments on, make yourself known in the field by being really active. And another one is the endorsements. So on LinkedIn, on your profile, there's a section that you can put in any skills that you want to be known for. But you want to be really picky about that. This is something that people can comment to your profile and endorse you on. So to say that, Sana is really good in this and this and this. But imagine if I have all sorts of skills in my profile. At one point, actually for 6 months in my life, I was designer. I was like a graphic designer. So imagine I had like some design related skills on my profile. And then at another career, now all of a sudden, I'm in psychology, I'm in business and coaching and all like leadership related type of things. And so people would be a little bit confused. Are you a designer eventually or you're a coach? So you want to be really focused on that and choose skills that you really, really want your brand to represent, to tell everyone that I'm all about leadership, I'm all about software engineer, or whatever that might be the case. So you want to let everyone know that you're a specialist and not a generalist. The other one is very simple, but yet a lot of people forget about it. It's the contact information. So under your profile picture on LinkedIn, you can click and add your email address and phone number. I personally like to just put in my email address for privacy reasons. And people can always send me an email and ask for a phone number if that's necessary. But another cool thing about it is that if you're trying to connect with someone and you might guess that they're not necessarily using LinkedIn that much, but you want to send them a message, you want to scroll down to your LinkedIn to like on their profile, and there is a section that has their email address, so you can copy paste it and send them a note. And in regarding recommendations, so recommendations are very, very popular, especially these days, and they go a long way. They're very important they play a really important role in making the employer really confident in their decision making. So if even if you are a student, or you say, I don't have too many job experiences, I've only done like volunteer work and went to school, you can still get a good recommendation from your professors or your volunteer manager, because people don't really care if that thing was paid or not. The fact that you have leadership skills, your analytical skills, or whatever that might be the case, people can put a recommendation on that. And a quick tip that I have for that is, because a lot of the times people might forget that you asked them to put a recommendation, and they might actually agree. They might say, yes, I'm happy to put a recommendation for you, but days go by and they might forget about it. So something really cool that you can do after someone agrees to send you a recommendation, after a few days, you don't see anything, you can go on their profile and request a recommendation. And so that would pop up with a notification that, yeah, like we talked, I requested that you put a recommendation letter. You can put a nice note around it just to remind them. And that's a really cool way to get their attention again, and it will stay on their profile until they either write you a recommendation or they just ignore it, but only they will see it. So don't worry about that. And you want to follow relevant hashtags. This is a really cool thing that I don't think too many people use on LinkedIn. So let's say you're interested in artificial intelligence. You put in hashtag artificial intelligence on the search bar, and if there's already a hashtag created for that, it will take you to a page and you can click follow. And the reason that can be really handy is that's part of that whole designing your feed scenario. But the more you have things that are super relevant to your professional field, the more you will be engaged, the more you will make comments. And so that's all really good for your branding. Everyone will see you and respond back to you. So it's important that you design your feed in a way that is full of things that you're really interested in. You also want to arrange sections in the order of their importance. So if you're a person who's had so many years of work experience, or at least something, you want to put your work experience on top and your education on the bottom, because no one really cares what school you went to, 12 years ago. They want to know like what's the most recent skills that you have, the roles that you had. Whereas if you're someone who recently graduated from school, you don't necessarily have a lot of work experience, but your your school degree or certification is super relevant to what you're looking for in a job, then you want to put that on top so that when recruiters come to your LinkedIn, that's the first thing that they will see. You also want to turn on the open to job status. If you do already have a job and you don't want your current employer to know this, you can always set it so that only recruiters will see. And I think that's one of the best ways that you can market yourself out there and let people know that you're open to jobs. And if you are not currently employed, you can set it so that everyone will be able to see that. So LinkedIn gives you scores on the back end, and this is based on your profile features, how many of the features you're using, your level of activity, as we talked about, the engagement, how many people you're connecting with, how many messages you're sending, the number of your connections is very important. 500 actually is the magic number in LinkedIn. Somehow it's just that number that because it shows that you have like more than 500, and it shows that you're more serious about your career. It means that you're constantly connecting with people in your professional area, and that's always considered a positive thing. And it also makes a difference. Once you get to the 500 connections, LinkedIn is going to automatically introduce you, or suggest you to more people on LinkedIn, so people will be able to see your profile more often. And so that's the whole point of the scoring. You want to get the higher score so that the visibility on your profile would be higher. And I know that it could be really difficult sometimes, or just nerve-wracking to be active on social media, especially on LinkedIn, because we think, okay, my career is online and on the line, and I don't want to mess things up. We did have some conversations that people have, like myself, with English being your second language, you're constantly thinking, did I use the right word? Was this the right grammar? So I think these are all valid concerns, but the more you do it, the more you check yourself, you get feedback from others, the easier it will be, the better it will be. And there are actually like different ways that you can do to make it easier for yourself too. So you can start with just resharing some posts that you really like without even putting any caption on it. It's an article, you really liked it, resonated with it, and so you're sharing with your network. Or you can just go to the next step and put just a small caption on it to show, to write about your view, your perspective about it, because people really care about what you think. And one of my favorite ways to be engaging and engaged, both of them on LinkedIn, is to make comments on people's posts. Sometimes I might not even know too much about that particular topic, but if someone is sharing, let's say, about a particular psychological concept that seems very interesting to me, I'll go and search, find a really nice article on it, and I'll respond back to that person saying, oh, look like what I saw in this article, and like paraphrase it, add my own kind of perspective around it too, and respond back. And so that's one of the best ways to market yourself in the area, to let people know that you're passionate about that particular topic, you have knowledge around it. And I personally, at the time, that was really nervous about these things, about just putting myself out there. The thing that motivated me was the response that I got, that I noticed that the number of connections I was getting was higher, the number of questions that I got from people was higher, my LinkedIn was constantly being viewed, so that already gave me the motivation that, okay, this is working, I'm gonna keep doing it. And every now and then it changes, like I might have like more or less time, but I always try to put some sort of reminder for myself to do something on LinkedIn, even if it's sending direct messages to people. You always want to be active, regardless whether you're job searching or switching career, or perfectly happy with your job. I think it's best if you're constantly networking. And another cool thing about networking, or cool and important about networking, is that the best time to network is when you don't really need a job, because you want to be building those relationships, you want to be nurturing those relationships, so that at the time that you actually need a job, you go back to that person that you met, I don't know, like 2 years ago or 2 months ago, and say, hey, I saw that there is a position open in your company, I'm interested, do you mind putting a referral? So you've already built that relationship. By now you probably have added a lot of value to them too, so it would feel okay and good to reach out to them for help too. I'm gonna pause again and see if there are any questions. You're all very quiet. Makes me wonder if you've been hearing me at all.
Okay. Sonaga, there are some questions on the chat. If you click on stage.
Oh. I'm not able to. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
That version. Is it okay to tweak your previous job title so that your LinkedIn profile looks more cohesive? Definitely, yes. As I mentioned, so some companies, to take that same example, some companies might call it customer service, another one might call it customer success or account management. You want to see what that particular company is calling it, and so choose that as a title that you would put on your profile. I'm actually going to cover that when it comes to resume, so we'll definitely talk about tweaking and tailoring. But that's a great question. Thank you. Having another one says, I requested for recommendation several times, but it seems my supervisor and or references are not very comfortable with this. How can I overcome this challenge? That's a really good question. So 2 things. First, we can't obviously expect everyone to feel comfortable to right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that your performance was not good or they're not happy with the work that you're doing. Um, so keep that in mind. Some people are just very, very careful about putting anything on social media and on LinkedIn. So that's one thing. And another thing is you can always reach out to other people. I just would not take it too personally and try to search for other people. It doesn't necessarily always have to be your supervisor as well. It is preferred if it's your supervisor, your manager, your professor, but even a classmate and a teammate, someone that you work super closely with, they all can write recommendations letter for you. So don't give up if you get no from a couple ones. I would, however, ask again if it seems like they just forgot about it. So it's different if they say no, like I just don't feel comfortable doing it. Whereas if they say yes, I will do it. So sometimes it's completely okay to follow up, to remind, to send a reminder, and that's the reason I said it's okay to put that request on their profile so that they will they won't have an excuse to say I forgot about it. Leah says, thank you for the event so far. Thank you for being here. Could you talk more on the about on LinkedIn, a professional profile we have on our resume? How do we catch someone's attention while keep it short? That's a great question. So, um, on LinkedIn particularly, well, actually on both, like on LinkedIn and resume, you want it to be concise. You want it to be very focused on your skills. When it comes to your resume, you want it to be a little bit more focused on your accomplishments. So if you had something that was considered a big accomplishment, you want to mention it there. You want it to be super clear what type of role you're going for, where you are in your career, in a very concise manner when it comes to resume particularly. When it comes to LinkedIn, you have a little bit more freedom. You want to show your character too, and you still can make it concise. But don't worry too much about making your bio on LinkedIn to be like super short. It's actually okay depending on your the role that you're going for. It's okay if it's a little bit longer and you get into like some details as well. But for most jobs, you want to keep it short. Talk about accomplishments that you have. Talk about your skills, particularly for LinkedIn, and show your personality on LinkedIn on resume. Just very, very short, from 1 to 3 sentences. And since all of these things become really, I guess, specific to each person, I'm happy to connect one on one as well and like look at your particular resume and see what could be a good summary or a professional profile. What's your opinion on using or paying for LinkedIn Premium? Yeah, so personally, I think it could be worth it while you're job searching, although they have increased the price. I think it's around like $50 or $60 per month. Used to be less. And the reason is that yeah, you can get more messages that you can send to each person, direct messages, which is a great thing. Like you might not have access to send longer messages to people if you want to attach your resume. Um, there is one way to go around it. If I personally suggest, if you don't necessarily want to invest in that, you send people an invite to connect with them. And thank you for reminding me to say this. Never send connection requests to people without a note. Always put a note on it. And in case anyone doesn't know how to do it, when you click connect, there is a box that says it has a button on it that says send a note, so you can click on it and you will write a note. So the way to go around this is that you can just send a really brief note. You want to make it a little bit engaging so that the person wants to talk to you, and then once they accept your connection, then you can always send them a message that is a little bit longer, attach your resume if it's a recruiter and you already established a relationship. So it really depends where you're in the career. But another cool feature that it has is that when you apply for jobs, it shows you where you are in comparison with others, what type of skills they're looking for. It kind of works a little bit like the ATS system that it's applicant tracking system. So I'm basically saying applicant tracking system. When I say that. Anyways, it works the way that it will show you the type of the keywords or the skills that they're looking for, and it kind of compares it to your profile, your LinkedIn profile, and tells you where you are. And I personally have used that in the past to go back to my profile and add certain keywords that I didn't have. So long response, shorter response is depends on your situation and what you're looking for. I would personally take advantage of that first month that you can get for free to learn a lot about the market, how you can customize your LinkedIn profile better. And then at that point, if you feel comfortable, just use the normal LinkedIn. But if you get a lot of value about it from it, and if you feel like you're using the messaging system a lot, then yeah, for sure, continue having it. What's your opinion? Yeah, okay, we responded that. So I'm going back to the slides, and thank you for great questions. So about resume. So as we talked about tailoring just now a little bit, so I tell my clients that, yeah, you need to tailor your resume to each job that you're applying to. And I can tell that they're just hearing that from you, and that's not going to happen because they feel like it takes a lot of time. But every time I remind them that tweaking the resume doesn't mean that you have to focus on the whole resume. I know that's not practical. First of all, it's tiring and tedious, and it's not even helpful. So what you want to do when it comes to tailoring, you want to focus on the top third, and that means your professional or your summary, the skills session, if you have it. I always suggest that you put that on top, and then also your most recent job. So people care mostly about your most recent job because that's where it tells them more about your skills. And if you're following the right resume, I guess like etiquette, you want to make sure that you have more descriptions, more bullet points under your resume for under your most recent job, so that that's already getting a lot of attraction. So people won't really go to the other jobs that you have under that. So definitely, and in tailoring that, yes, definitely make sure that you're using the same language that that job description has, with the same skills that is listed on the job description, and make your profile or summary really attractive based on what's listed in the job description. And you want to own your journey, including any gaps that you might have in your resume. So some of you might have had gaps in your resume, and it might be due to medical reasons. You might have wanted to take care of yourselves or a family member, take care of kids if you were or are a mom. You were going to travel the world, whatever the case might be. You want to actually mention that with the just under your job description or under your job experiences, you want to have a bullet that says this was a gap year with the year and month, and you want to list what type of skills you learned, what type of courses you took, any volunteer jobs that you did. And some people initially try to hide that by putting or like formatting their resume so that the recruiter won't realize. And I never suggest this because once they find that out, then it's not going to be good for you. No one wants to work with a liar. So you want to avoid that. But another reason that is really important is that if they notice that you have a gap, and by the way, I'm talking about shorter gaps, like I'm talking about longer gaps. So if it's like just 1 month, 2 months here and there, don't worry too much about it. But if it's longer, it's getting like closer to 6 months or a year, then you want to consider putting it. And the reason that that's important is that if you don't explain why it was the case, why you had the gap, and what you did, the recruiters or hiring managers will go and imagine, like, have their own narrative. They might say, oh, they might have, just gotten fired, and then it took them really long time to do it. Even if that was the case, there's always certain things you could do to make it less intimidating, like more attractive. So you want to own the journey. You want to own the control in how you tell your story. So definitely mention that if you've had the gap. And you want to explain everything on your resume very clearly. You want to explain as if you're talking to your grandparents. And we talked a little bit about this, that everyone wants to be really confident in their decision making. And so consider that recruiter who looks at your resume. Recruiters are only recruiters. They're not technical in the job that you're very good at. So if you don't spell out the acronyms, or you don't necessarily, if you don't explain everything in detail in the job description, then they're not going to be sure if you're a good match. So they're not going to pass it on to the hiring manager. So you want to explain things as clearly as possible. And you've probably heard this a lot, but yet I see all the time that people don't really do it. That you want your resume to be very accomplishment oriented or results oriented, and you want it to have numbers in it. And we had a conversation, a brief one in the networking session, where you were curious how you could bring those numbers from. So a lot of the times when we say numbers, people think of money, or like how much money you save, and people think that it has to be like $1 million. That's not the case. Anything that you save, if you save some time, if you created a report on under a tight timeline, for example, if something usually takes 1 month, but you did it under 2 weeks, you want to mention that regularly you were performing at a really good pace. If you improve certain processes, you want to talk about that. If you taught a class, maybe you were a leadership trainer or a teacher, you want to talk about how many people you taught, or if you were a manager or a leader, how many people did you manage? These are all important things. And women, unfortunately, sometimes don't notice how much impact and how much accomplishment that they've had in their jobs. And so we focus on just like the bigger picture things, or unfortunately, sometimes I was working with an executive, a female executive at one point, and she was saying, yeah, I just was lucky because I had a really amazing team. So my team members are really good. I'm not really good at, and she's a person who managed the whole company, but she gave all the credit to her team members, and not the fact that, well, she has a leadership skill. She has amazing skills in managing all these people and the whole team. So it's important to think about every single way that you can highlight your accomplishments and put numbers around them. And another thing to talk about when it comes to accomplishments, so there are some studies that shows that women are better in telling an overall summary or summarized story of what they did. So they kind of like say, overall, these are all my responsibilities, all the duties that they had. Whereas men tend to be better in really pointing out in bullet points like what exactly that they accomplished. And that goes a long way, because think about it, when a recruiter or hiring manager looks at your resume, they don't have that much time. They're in an elimination game, not in a hiring game. They're trying to look for red flags so that they can put away your resume. So don't give them the excuse to put your resume away that easily. You want to grab their attention by highlighting the important keywords, the impressive accomplishments that you had. First of all, they have to be there, but then you also want to make it bold with the formatting on Word or whatever you use, so that those are the first things that they will see.
Sanaj, sorry to interrupt. I think you're presenting your slides, but I think when you switched to the chat, we lost the slides. So if you could screen share again, that would be great.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I know hopping is weird. You can't do everything at once. Okay, perfect.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So yeah, this was the last screen in case anyone wants to get a screenshot or anything. But moving on to the next slide. So you want to follow common practice in your country and the market that you wish to enter. I'm guessing most people here are in the States. I'm bringing this up just because in certain countries like Australia and UK, they call it CV, whereas the equivalent here is resume. And in the States, CV is referred to what people have in academia. And that's another important thing to note. If you're coming from academia, if you have a PhD, you want to make sure that you translate everything, your publications, your paper. You want to translate all those things to something that people in the industry can understand. And so that's true for the content, for the formatting, and definitely follow the formatting that's considered common in the market. And this is particular for switching careers. For people who are switching careers, you want to show people that you're serious. You want to show or prove that you're really passionate about the career that you're switching to. So you might be a software engineer, but you want to switch to become a leadership trainer, for example. Um, no one is gonna believe you unless you show that you're going to networking events, you're going to like different classes, you're taking courses online, you're doing volunteer jobs, you're connecting with a lot of people in that same field. And so like when people click on your profile, they see that, she's connected to multiple people in the leadership space. So you want to do as much as possible, like by even joining groups on LinkedIn that are particular for people in the area that you're switching to. So you definitely want to show that you're really invested, and so that people can believe what you say when you say, I'm really passionate about it. And don't list your soft skills. Your resume, the space on your resume is really precious, and you want to really make the most out of it. So don't talk about your verbal or written communication skills unless if it's a core part of the job that you're doing. I wouldn't necessarily put soft skills, because you can use that space for better things, and people, no matter what, they are going to see that you have those skills by the way that you write emails, the way that you interview. So don't worry too much about that, and use the space for other things. And that's it in terms of the content for the workshop today. Thank you so much, Women of MENA in Tech, for inviting me, and for all of you for joining. I would love to give you all a gift of complimentary 20-minute coaching call. I'm going to put my registration link in the chat too, so that you can all have access to it. And for any questions, always happy to talk. Feel free to send me a message. And if you're interested to join other workshops, I have one workshop that is coming up in March, and then later on there are going to be other ones. So feel free to connect with me, send me a message, and happy to chat. And with that, I'm going to stop screen share and open it up to any questions that you might have. Let's see. Mojajan asks, is working in a job less than 2-3 years a red flag? Let's assume the person did not laid off, went to maternity leave, returned to school, etc. So I'm not sure what you mean on the maternity leave or return to school part. That seems to be like a different question. Please clarify. But on the first question where you said, is working in a job less than 2-3 years a red flag? No, not in this day and age, especially where, like in California, I would say mostly that is no longer the case. Many years ago, it probably was a red flag, but here, I would say 3 years is definitely not a red flag. When it comes to around like 1 year, people might question it, but I think the most important thing is what type of pattern you have in your resume or LinkedIn. If you constantly have, like 9 months, or all of them are like 1 year, people are gonna think that, okay, probably the next time or your next role when you join our company, you're probably only gonna stick around for 1 year. And so if that's not attractive for them, which usually is not, then yeah, that might not be a good thing. However, if all of your experiences were fairly long, like around 2-3 years, 5 years, whatever, and then you happen to have one of them, the most recent one that was 1 year, for all sorts of reasons, maybe maybe I guess like that's what you mean. Maybe they just get laid off, or they just simply didn't like the job. Then you can always create a case around it and choose how you talk about that in the interview, and how you present yourself. And that's going to make a huge difference. And I hope that answered your question. If not, please follow up. You're very welcome. Are there any other questions, comments, feedback? Great. I hope you all found this helpful. I'm also going to put in my registration link for any one of you who wants to discuss something in particular when it comes to your resume or LinkedIn. I'm putting it here, and also my LinkedIn if you want to connect. I'm very responsive on LinkedIn as well. Any advice on cold messaging people on LinkedIn? Yes. So cold messaging is a little bit tricky, and it takes some trial and error. I like to always sit down and create some sort of template so that it makes the whole process easier for you. So every time you have to send a message to someone, you don't have to like create the whole thing. But at the end of the day, you want to customize it a lot. So you might want to have template around like the greetings and like some of the things that is about you, like in your introduction. But when it comes to expressing interest, you really want to look at the person's profile and see what are some things that really resonate with you. And in my experience, whether it's on LinkedIn, on in networking, whenever I really connect with someone, I always communicate that better. And it seems like people can really see the passion, and so that works a lot better when you connect with people that you really are curious about and you're really interested in. So mention that. Don't be shy. Like literally mention what you're so curious about or why you're interested in that person. I always say, regardless whether it's cold messaging, whether it's someone that you recently met, never ask people for jobs in the very first interaction. Always try to build a relationship, a true relationship. And once you build that relationship, a lot of people are super nice. They will tell you like if you want to have a conversation, happy to chat. Then at the end of the conversation, they even offer if you need a referral, they can always help you with that. So it will happen, but don't rush into it because it's just a huge turnoff usually. And people want to be contacted because to feel that they are interesting, not because you want a job from them. Does that help? Let me know if you have any other specific questions on that. I can definitely answer that too. How to choose good headlines for LinkedIn profile. It very depends really on where you are in your career. Are you switching to something completely different? How do you want to frame that? For example, in certain positions where it's not very clear what you do, sometimes it helps if you have a description of like what you do, what problem do you help solve. In certain other positions, for example, like if you're a data scientist or a software engineer, if it's super clear, and that's very common in the market, I always suggest that you put your title, whatever your role is, whatever you want your role to be, because this is another thing. This is a psychological side of things too. Sometimes if let's go back to that example of a software engineer student. You do have all the technical skills of a software engineer. You're about to graduate, but you don't dare to call yourself a software engineer. And so obviously that's going to show in your interview skills. So you're constantly calling yourself aspiring software engineer, or I hope to become a software engineer. And people don't want to hire someone who hopes to be a software engineer. They want to hire someone who is a software engineer. So even if you haven't had that position yet, you want to adopt that identity by putting it in your hot headline and constantly see it every day so that you believe it first. and then the hiring manager can also believe it too. So to have a shorter response, always put your role if it's a common thing in the market. Second thing, you can put the type of problem that you help solve if it's not a super common title. Another thing that you can do, you can just put in the type of space you're in. So you put, or like the type of space or skill that you have, like leadership development or whatever else it might be. That helps most of the time if you're in the air, if you're kind of in the intersection of multiple different industries or different jobs. It's okay to have multiple ones. Okay. Great. Yeah, great questions. Keep them coming. There are other questions about resume in particular. Does the length of resume and CV matter? What is too long? Yes, great question too. So I always say you don't ever want to go over 2 pages. Like 3 pages is really, really long. And when it comes to deciding whether it has to be 1 or 2, it should really reflect the length of your experiences. So if you're someone who's had years of experience and it's really all of them are relevant, you really can afford to not mention any of them. It's okay to have 2 pages and people do read them, but you want to be I mean, pretty much for anyone, you want to be really strategic by making the text bold when it comes to the keywords and the accomplishment that you had. So to make sure that people do actually go over both of them, both pages. But for a lot of people, I would say most people, especially when it comes to entry-level jobs or intermediate jobs, just one page is good. And if another thing is that, imagine if you wrote a 3-page resume. Another reason people would not like that is that they will say maybe you have problem concising information or concising words so that you can communicate a lot more clearly and like more concisely. So if they see that there's a bunch of information and you could potentially say all of that, summarize that in 2 pages, then yeah, that would not be a positive thing when it comes to the resume. I want to really emphasize what I mentioned in one of the slides too, that you consider this to be a hiring game and the employers consider this an elimination game. And what that means is that they're looking for every single little thing that they might see on your resume that would make it super easy for them to put aside your resume. So if you even have an unprofessional email address that has nothing to do with your name or like what you do, I mean, pretty much it only has to do with your name, your email address. So if it's something else, it's such an easy decision. They're just gonna put it aside. So you want to avoid anything that would work against you. Does it make a difference to take skill quiz on LinkedIn and get the badge assessment? Sure, yeah. Some of my clients did it and they seem to like it just because it seems like it has like a formal process for that, and it's particularly good if you're in a technical space and it has like something that is really valuable for the employer. So that's just another way to do it. Some other things that you could do is take certifications or like classes even on Coursera, Udemy, Udacity, all these websites that have really good things, and they also give you certain like certifications. Even it has a code so then that you can put on LinkedIn so that people can see what you're certified in. I would say don't pay too much attention to the fact that it's a LinkedIn badge. Pay attention to what type of gaps you're trying to fill in your professional life, in your whole like skill set, and see where you can find the best course for that. And if Coursera has it, take it from them. If I don't know, somehow you can bring that certification that you're really good in this, then yeah, you can do it. But I think yeah, the quiz, because it's an assessment, people might look at it a little bit differently. I would say it's just a bonus, not necessarily something that you would have to have. But if you have the time, always, the more you do, the better. They're all really good questions. Yeah, you're very welcome. Anyone else has any questions? One, two. There is Shazia.
All right. If there are no other questions, I would love to thank you so much, Sana, for your time, for sharing your expertise with our community. Oh, it seems like there are still some questions. Okay, I'll pause.
Fair enough, thank you. How to make our LinkedIn profile brand? Very general question. Yeah, it has all those pieces into it, and that's a really good question, by the way. It's not just one single thing, of course, that you would do this and this is your brand. Brand is the way that you talk, the way that you write, the way that you have your signature set up, and LinkedIn is a part of it. Your profile picture, you want to make sure it's very professional. It's not like a cropped photo of you in a party or something. It's very professionally taken. And I would say a big part of branding is how engaged you are in conversations, how the type of comments that you make, and making sure that your profile is really set and you have everything there. Like basically make the most of all the LinkedIn features, because just naturally doing them, it gives a really good impression to people who do it right. Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for joining.
Great.
And yeah, please feel free to hop on the networking session that I think we already have set up. And thank you all for being here. I loved talking to y'all and sharing a little bit of tips and here and there. Thank you
Thank
for
you so
having me.
much, Sana. Thank you so much for your time, for the great slides and the tips. As you were talking, I was like making changes to my LinkedIn. I was I was doing live editing, so that was really helpful. Thank you. And as I mentioned on the chat, Sana has been kind to give us even more of her time after this workshop on a networking event. So that'll be another 30 minutes where you can hop on and have one-on-one discussions, more personal, more questions. And if you want to join us, that would be you would click on sessions to your left. And then you will see the room and you will just join. And there you are even able to use audio and video to even get on the stage with Sana and communicate, or you can use the chat. Great. Well, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, you're getting a lot of
Wow. Thanks
appreciation
for
now.
joining.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks everybody for joining. And yes, we'll see you in the networking room. Thanks again, Sana.
Cool. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.